Loss is an interesting concept, mostly because it's inevitable and universal, but also because it could be sudden or predictable. Loss is also very subjective. We value what we value, including the sentimental value we attach to belongings, without explanation. But certain kinds of loss can be very powerful and significant that it almost feels palpable. It's the kind of loss that is shared, that everybody can attest to. It's the kind of loss that makes you experience emotions so overwhelming that some of the time it manifests physically. It's the kind that translates into intense grief. Granted, grief is a natural part of the healing process. But what happens when it feels like your grief doesn't end? What happens when it feels like you are grieving forever? Elizabeth Kubler-Ross says that you will not get over the loss of a loved one. You will, however, learn to live with it. The account of my guest today completely confirms this statement. When Oforiwaa Attipoe talks about how she deals with the loss of her mother, it will move you, and hopefully it will help you grow too.
My name is Mrs. Oforiwaa Attipoe. My husband is Christopher Attipoe, and then I have two girls with him, Tucci and Lone. So personally, I'm interested in swimming, and then I like to be in my room, just play music and dance. Because, a lot of people say reading and all of that. Please, I don't like to read. I just like to have fun. Just listen to music, dance, and then spend time with the kids and my husband. So basically that's it about me. That's how my life has been for a while now, and I think I'm used to it. So I would describe myself as lazy, perfect, and passionate. So I'm sure you're wondering how lazy and perfect fit in one sentence, but that's just me. I'm very lazy till I really have to do something. So if I have to do it, then I do it perfectly. So most of the comments you hear about me are, did you really do this? Like, did you do it yourself? And that's me, because maybe before I embark on any project or do something, I'm always like, oh, do I really have to do this? And I'm never serious till I decide to get serious. So when I get serious, I really do it. So I just move from being very lazy to being very perfect, and nobody gets it. And then the passionate comes in because I put my everything in whatever I do. So I think the three words that describe me perfectly are lazy, perfect, and passionate. Okay, so for me, I am such a hopeless romantic. And I just hope it's never to my detriment, because I'm so into this whole lovey-dovey thing, booed up, listening to romantic music, all those candlelight things. I'm a bit of a fairy tale person. Everybody tells me it's not real, but for now, I think it is, or it could be. It depends on how you make it. So what's very important to me now, it's my family, my husband and my children. And then I would put work second, like my career, focusing on career, attaining higher heights in the field I'm in right now. So basically the two most important things are family, my love life, my kids, that's in one bracket, and then I'll put career and work also in one. Okay, so talking about emotional health, I think initially I wasn't aware of emotional health. I think this part of the world where we grow up, we are not really into emotional health. You're just supposed to go with the flow, if I can put it, for lack of a better word. Just live your life, whatever comes your way, you deal with it as it comes. But I've never been so mindful of emotional health, even though I know, my emotions jet towards my husband and my kids, that one is there, but every other issue. So at work, you're encouraged not to work with emotions, so you get to work, no matter how you're feeling from home or wherever, you put it aside, and then you just focus on what you have to do. So I think I haven't really focused on my emotions emotional health. Till recently, when the awareness started coming up, you read on posts like take care of yourself, your emotions, your mental health. I think that is when people became aware, because previously I don't think so. I don't think emotional health is that emphasized, and I don't think I have really paid particular attention to that part of my life. Yeah. Okay, so what I do to take care of my emotional health. Funny enough, I discovered myself in a whole new light this year. So I realized I like jazz music. Previously, well, yeah, I'm into R&B and all, but I realized that jazz music has a way of soothing me lately. So when I get down or like my emotions, my mind is all over the place, probably emanating from work and every other issues, I feel jazz soothes me. So I have this playlist, it's Kenny G or something. I never even knew he existed, because I would be the one to previously go like, but why would anybody listen to jazz? It's so boring. Like there's nothing fun about that. But this was a discovery I made this year. I realized that jazz is actually very soothing. So what actually helps me lately to take care of my emotions is jazz. So I have this playlist, I just put it on, and then I realized I become very calm after listening for a while. So for now, I think jazz and then prayer. Maybe I should say that first, which is the African norm, put God first and all. So I pray and then I worship, and then I think the jazz really does it for me, I should say. Yeah. Yes. So as for that one, I know even people who haven't experienced it dread it. So this is when I lost my mom in 2017, and it changed my entire being. Like everything about me has changed. It was a very, very tragic experience for me, and as to how I'm still getting through it, I have no idea. So it's the loss of my mom on 21st May 2017. You see, I even remember the date. Yeah. Okay, I would say that my mom had been a single mom for, let's just say for a period of, my parents had a divorce. Yes, so I would say this is my very first time. I say to myself, I know I've had the best of both worlds, because everything was perfect before everything came crashing. So that whole initiation from everything being all perfect, having that ideal family, everything working, switching straight to a very bad divorce for some time, and then losing my mom was like the worst thing. And it's the very first time I had experienced something this tragic. Yeah. So what I would say about it is that so I got married in 2016, and I know, so it was just my mom, my sister and I for a while, since 2009, after they had that bad divorce. So basically it was just the three of us. So we're very, very close. It was a unit. I mean, we did everything together, and my sister and I felt like we had to hold my mom through it all, whatever she was going through. And then I got married. So I remember that whole time was so emotional for my mom, because it had been all three of us for a while, and then it's like I was leaving the house. So I even remember on my wedding day, I really cried for two reasons. For the fact that I was leaving my mom with my sister alone, and that was really getting to me, because my sister is very quiet. She's not like me. She's not so outspoken. I would say she's boring. But my mom gets really happy when I'm home, because I'm the one who's always like cracking jokes, making her laugh. It's like I go to work, so she was on pension, and I know the moment I get home, she's happy. She knows I'm coming to talk plenty. Like I have so much to say. So anytime she's opening the gate for me, she's like, "Oh, you dear, hey, so today what happened?" And she would just be so happy. So it was so emotional for me to leave the house knowing I was leaving her. And then immediately I left the house in 2016. I think less than a year, she fell sick. So here was I thinking, oh God, like, is it me? Like, I felt I was her source of happiness. And now I'm not home, because my sister has very few words. I didn't get the regular sister everybody has. She doesn't talk much. I mean, she was supportive. She's a nice person and all, but she's super quiet. And I don't even see how we could be opposites like that. In fact, me and her is like north and south. So I felt like maybe me not being in the house, my mom, I felt it was my responsibility, even though it shouldn't be. And I'm sure a lot of people find themselves in this situation, especially people from broken homes. You, the kids, it's like you feel that burden to entertain one party or try and keep each of them happy in a way. So initially when I heard the news, so it was just one Saturday, my sister called me that my mom said she had a headache and she was being rushed to the hospital. The first thing that came to mind, oh God, like, okay, so we got to the hospital and they said it's high blood pressure. And I'm like, yeah, maybe me leaving the house, she's not entertained enough, maybe she's not happy about something. So it was a bit of a burden. So I told myself I'll do anything within that period to, make it up to her. So yeah, it was the feeling that I was feeling part of the reasons why she felt ill, even though she also understood I had to go on with my life as well. I had to move on, kids, start my own family. So I was actually torn. So that's it with that time. Yeah, so when she fell sick, it was a whole lot of feelings. So one, I knew I had to be strong. So I have a big brother, he's the first one. He's not in Ghana, he's in America. And he wasn't here. And my sister is very quiet. So that whole time, even though I was emotionally down, I had to still be the strongest person. Where was I going to get strength from? God. But sometimes too, you have questions for God. Like, our situation. Why is this happening? So all those hospital rounds filled with so much emotion, but then the goal is to make sure my mom was fine. So I had to put everything aside. And the Ghanaian health system, she was at 37. Trust me, it was such a horrible experience for us. Even day one, after she was rushed to a private hospital, I remember it was Inkum Hospital on the Spintex Road, and then they realized the case was a bit serious, so they transferred her to 37. We got there and there were no beds. And I'm sure everybody has heard this before. I mean, I'm not the first person saying this, but there were no beds. And the ambulance bed, she had to be in the ambulance for hours. And they were like, go and get her card first before they give her a bed. So she had to be hanging on in the, that was so, even the hospital drive, like the ambulance from Inkum Hospital to 37. I remember my sister and I were on our knees by her in the ambulance just praying. In fact, my mom has been the spiritual type. She's always making us pray. Living in my house was like living in a church. But I really like to have fun. So I was always fighting with her and all. Look, okay, so I pray. I speak in tongues, but initially I wasn't really believing in that and all. Trust me, that day, I don't even know where the tongues came from. So I remember my sister looked at me and said, hey, as for today, you are praying, eh? And I was like, you should let us focus on the issue here. I remember I was just speaking in tongues. I don't know where it came from. I just had to pray because this was my world on the bed. So it was a whole lot of feelings. Stay strong. Make sure you are there to see through everything. Had to push my sister through and push that whole emotions aside and just be physically there. So I knew I had to be strong. In fact, I lost appetite, but I told myself, no, seems like you're all that we need now. I need myself to push my sister and my mom through. So I had to eat, even though I knew I had to be healthy. So I had to eat and then push my sister and make sure that everything happening at the hospital had to move smoothly. So even though I was bottled up with so many emotions, I had to put myself first, that I need myself to do this. So I had to do it. Yeah. So I laugh, but actually, to be very honest, I don't know how I'm doing it. But I think something weird happened. So that whole horrible hospital experience and all, so it was a Saturday. My husband and I had a little get together at my place. And then, so I saw her that Saturday. At that time, I had just started my family, so I didn't even have a lot of things. So even this get together, I remember I went to her on the Saturday to ask her for bowls, those chaffon bowls, and I didn't even have anything because basically this was just 1 year into the marriage. We're just settling in and all. So I went to her, she gave me the tablecloth. In fact, I didn't know that was her last day on earth. I wouldn't have wasted it at all. So to whoever I'm talking to right now, if your mom is alive, please, every second, just pick her call. I know they talk so much and all, but I'm telling you, just do it. Because you don't know what I'm going through. I'm about to tell you, and you would see the importance of keeping your mothers close to you. So I went there briefly. I remember she was like, oh, like I should just stay for a while. And I was like, oh, because of the event happening, you know, I'm the woman of the house. As to how I was even going to do it, I don't know, because I was new. And yeah, I'm the last born, so I must say I was very pampered. I didn't know so many things. So she was the one telling me, oh, you have to arrange it this way. And she's like, oh, she's feeling so bad, she's not well, to be there to come and support with the arrangements and stuff. And then she guided me through it all. And I remember she told me she wanted biscuits, which was weird. You know how before somebody passes, all these weird things happen. You don't even notice till the person passes. So she wanted biscuits. And I was like, she knows I have a long day ahead of me. So we're from this biscuit craving. But funny enough, I just went to, well, living on the Spintex by then, so I went to Bachuna Total to get her the biscuit, and I came. I was like, I asked for this biscuit issue there. She's really worrying me, but I'll get it for her. So I just got her the biscuit, and then she's like, oh, I should let her know how the party goes. I went home and all. And it's one day I regret the most, because I remember she kept calling me the whole day, but I was too busy to pick her call. And by then she had kind of recovered and she was home. So her condition was subarachnoid hemorrhage, which is like bleeding in the vein. But the doctors had told her for some miraculous reason the vessel had clipped up, so she's fine. So the whole day she kept calling, and I'm like, oh, she's fine, and she's just going to ask me how it's going, so I'll pick her call later. I never answered any of her calls till about, let's say, 5 p.m. And then I called and she's like, oh, she's only checking on me, trying to find out how the day is going and whether I've been able to do everything, because she knows I'm now trying to pick things up. So she was just checking. I said, oh, everything is fine. By then there was music, everything was going on. So I was torn between like entertaining the visitors I had, and also I told her, oh, I'll call her back. And she's like, fine. So I never called her till I think the events ended around midnight, and also packing up, cleaning up and all. So when everything settled around 1 a.m. to 2 p.m. thereabout, I laid in bed and then I called her. Funny enough, she was up. So when she picked up, I was like, I was actually just calling just so she would see my missed call in the morning. I didn't think she would pick up. She's like, oh, she's up, she's praying. I said, oh, you dear. Every time you are praying, why? Just sleep. You are not well, just sleep. I didn't know that would have been my last call to her. And she's like, okay, she's glad everything went well, and she will talk to me in the morning. That's the end. That was the last conversation. I woke up in the morning to see about like 15 missed calls from my big sister who was living with her then. And then she's like, oh, hurry up. Mommy said her head is aching again, so we are taking her to 37. And I was like, okay, I'm coming. Look, I don't even know how I sprang out of bed. I had, I think Tucci was just 6. My firstborn was just 6 months then. And I knew she was going to 37. And you know, 37, they don't allow you to go in there with a newborn. So I was just wondering how. It was just my husband and I. So I remember my cousin was around then. So I just had to wake my cousin up quickly. Like, she has to go with us because I can't enter the emergency ward with the baby. So she has to be there to hold the baby. So we rushed there, and funny enough, when we're going, I was so indifferent, but my mom was such a prayerful person. In fact, I was like, oh, even 2 a.m. she was praying, so I'm sure God has got her. She's not going to die, or like there's nothing bad going to happen. So I was very calm, you know. And then we get there, I hand over my baby, and then we go in there. So apparently some neighbors helped my sister to rush her, so they were also there. And I met them outside, like, oh, I hope she's fine. And then they just kept saying, oh, you go inside. But I still didn't get the vibe. I was still feeling like, oh, she's fine. Because that's what happened the first time, and then she became okay, and then we came home and all. So I get in there, I still didn't see her in the first walk through the emergency. So there's an inner emergency. And then my sister and I went to see the doctor. I think that time my husband was trying to sort out the baby, trying to get my cousin, oh, this is her food and all of that. So he was still outside. And the doctor is like, oh, you come inside. I'm like, where is she? Where is she? She's like, oh, you see her, but you just come. You says, when he said you see her, I just held on to that hope because I just didn't want to hear anything. So when he said, oh, you see her, but just come, I felt okay because I felt she was there and probably she was in coma or something. So I'll eventually get to see her. And then he takes us to a room. That's when I started feeling weird. I just started going off. I'm like, but wait, what's taking your time? Why are you delaying? We have to see her. And she's like, I said you see her. Then I just wanted something to jump onto, something to just calm me down. So when he just kept saying you see her, then even though I had mixed feelings, I got comforted a bit. And then he goes like, oh, so life happens and are you the only people here? And we're like, yes, it's my sister and I. Where is she? And he's like, I think he realized how it was just my sister and I, and he was really finding it difficult to break the news. He went on and on about, life gets tough and there are some situations that are terminal. And I'm like, doctor, you are just talking too much. Where is she? And then he goes like, she didn't make it. And in fact, I actually don't know. I don't think there's any word in the world that can describe how I felt at the time. My sister just fell on the ground. I don't know if she had collapsed or anything. And here I was again. In fact, I'm trying not to be emotional because I think the way the story is, I don't want to cry on camera, but it's very sad. We didn't have our dad. My brother wasn't here. My mom was all we had. And on breaking the news, my sister is on the floor. My mother is dead. I have a 6-month-old. I don't even know how I'm here today. It's like the worst thing ever. So instead of focusing on the main issue, I had to try and get my sister to wake up or whatever was happening to her on the ground, And the doctors also have and then immediately she comes back and she's just crying. Single tear yet because I honestly didn't know what was happening. What's this? So I told my sister she just had to be strong and let's go through the procedure. So just when we managed to get her back to the chair, she had broken down completely. She couldn't even move. And I had to spend time on her before even going to see my dead mother. So I managed to get her to, put herself together, and I'm like, okay, let's go. And I'm like, let's go. Maybe she's not dead. Maybe, so the doctor said she's clinically dead. So I asked them that, well, I'm not a medical person. I don't know the terms or anything. So I was like, Papa, if she's clinically dead, is she alive anywhere else? And that's when the doctor even broke down. He was just quiet, and then he's like, God is alive, you'll be fine. And then I said, can't he do anything? My sister was still, throwing herself on. But as to how I survived, I don't know. And it's because there was so much on me. There was so much I had to do. I was dealing with so much at once. We managed to get out there, and then my mom is on the bed. I think they hadn't even taken out the oxygen. I think they tried to give her oxygen or resuscitate her or whatever it was. So then they were now, pulling out tubes out of her and all of that, and her eyes had just, but she was still, fresh. So I just kept asking, I still I didn't even know what was going on. It was so shocking. For the first time, I thought I understood what death was, but I think I didn't know anything about it. You know how they tell you when you're young, you don't understand what death is, but when you grow, you'll be fine. You know exactly what it is, but I don't think I even knew. Here was I, as old as I am, still standing there asking questions like, can they do anything? And my sister was on the ground. Just then I saw my husband coming in after sorting my cousin out, and then I think before he came in, my neighbors that brought my mother to the hospital had told him. They knew, but they couldn't tell me. They just told me to go in there. So they had told my husband outside, and he had broken down outside, and he didn't even know how to come in. He didn't even know how to, handle the whole thing, knowing the situation I was in. So he even came in with red eyes. Like, I think he had cried out there because he knew it was such a bad thing that had happened to all of us. So I was thinking I was now going to tell him. And then when I saw him, I kind of knew he knew. So he also broke down. He was crying. My sister was also crying. And I was still there. I was blank.